Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the Vaesen Nordic horror role-playing rules by Free League Publishing. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. Strong language, mature scenes, and Thursday's children are on the way. And now, on to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Old Ways, where once again we are playing The Friend, The Fiend, and The Shadow of the Night, a mystery for Vaesen, the Nordic horror role-playing game from Fria Ligan. And without any further ado, let's see who I have at the table. To my right.
Hi, this is Mike, and I play Father Eric Sorensen, who's a little bit upset after the last game. He's a little frustrated with we'll just say the idolatry of bread.
And to Mike's right.
Hi, this is Miranda, and I play Marta. And Marta's just hoping she gets to pummel some vampires this go-round.
And to Miranda's right.
Hi, this is John, and I'll be playing Sven Anderson, a simple hunter and hater of werewolves.
And last, but definitely not least.
Hi, I'm Nate. I'm playing retired detective Nickel Doppler. And I've just stepped in to have a quiet conversation and contemplation at the local church.
So, yes indeed, Nicole, you have been ushered into this tiny little chapel, little more than a chapel, on the outskirts of the migrant district to the east of Uppsala. There's a little vestry where you can sit, and Father Petra Tröster, who is the priest of that particular church, and he tends to his flock of who pretty much predominantly consist of these workers who have travelled from all over to come and find opportunities here in Uppsala. And he sits you down, gives you a cup of warm tea, and he asks you a simple question, which is, what do you know of the creature they call the vampire?
Father, I've heard of many different creatures, but this one is unfamiliar to me.
Yes. It is common in my country and the eastern lands. But I suppose you here in Scandinavia, you have different tales, different stories, different folklore, creatures of your own that hide in the shadows, in the depths of the forest and deep in the sea, yes?
Absolutely. It is teeming with life that is the kind of life that we interact with, special.
Yes, you have an affinity, huh? You have a feeling for these things, a second sight.
Some would say, yes, Father.
Yes. Of course, as a man of God, I look to heaven and I look to hell. These creatures, they are in between, in a grey area, you might say. But that is a conversation for another day. Tell me, you saw the body of this girl, Milena, yes?
Indeed, we managed to make small observation and investigation. Apparently, one of several such children that have been caught up. It was very mysterious, Father, I must say. The child, the adult, but in my mind, a young girl. She looked to be almost in joy, yet dead upon the ground, her skin white, pale, no blood at all at the crime scene, and also from the cursory examination, no blood in the body either. Quite unmarked other than a bare puncture wound that we found upon the body, and in the alley where we found her father, no my detective eyes, this is most troubling. No seemingly sense of the scuffle, the violence there, nor any evidence of her being dragged there. The things that are most common in these situations.
No, there would not be. No, these creatures, they are strong, yes, but they do not use this strength unless they have to. They wield power of seduction. They can cloud your mind, bring you to them as if it is your heart's desire to be in their embrace. But no, you must not mistake. They take the blood. You will not have seen any, because there will not have been any other than that which may have been spilled. A few drops, perhaps. Let me tell you a story, if I may indulge an old man. You remember many years ago, a decade or more now, the cholera epidemic that swept across Europe and the East. We suffered from it in Russia greatly. Many, many people died. I traveled the land myself and trying to bring some comfort to the bereaved and to those that were passing over. On my journey, I met a young medical officer, name of Ruliston. He was frantic with fear, and he claimed that a girl of the village, Justina Yushkov, she was called, that she had not died of this disease, as was thought, but that she was in fact a creature known as a Strigoita, an evil spirit. Yes, what you might call a vampire. This thing is a living corpse which takes its sustenance from the blood of you or I. Yes. Well, he managed to convince the townsfolk to exhume the girl so that they could check her body. But when it was lifted from the grave, what they saw was that her mouth, it was lying wide open. This is taken as a sign she was indeed this vampire, Stirgoicha. In accordance with their tradition, they drove a stake through her mouth to prevent her from rising from the grave. And they left her graveside satisfied that it had been dealt with. Yet its barbaric act, it turned my stomach. A man of God, you understand. These ancient, superstitious ways, they're not seemly. So I reported the incident to the local judge. Now, I fear that nothing will have come of it, for this superstition, it is strong in our people. Yeah? If they believe, then they will do whatever they can to overcome these evils, yes? Take whatever steps they think necessary. And there are rituals, there are rites, there are signs and symbols, all these things that they believe will end the evil, will subdue it, control it, destroy it.
Father, did it work then? The stake through the mouth? Did it stop it?
If it worked or not worked, it is hard to say. The girl was not seen again. I traveled on not long after, but if she was just a poor innocent girl, then her body was defiled by these people. But if what they say was true, and she was this thing, this dark creature from hell, then yes, I suppose it was destroyed. But tell me, son, my son, you spoke of others. It is not you alone that is looking into these deaths, am I right?
I have several companions. We have taken up residence in the castle, Gillenkreuz. All of us with our own talents, but all of us with the same talent to see and perceive these creatures that walk amongst us that others do not.
And they know what they face here?
No. This is the first all of us have heard of it, unless the others know and have not mentioned. But no, I believe this is new information for all of us.
Well, what do you intend to do now?
It is our duty to put an end to this murder. I feel a responsibility to this child in the alley and also the other victims that have not had their murders been properly investigated and adjudicated. And this is obviously not an event for the court systems and the police systems of the regular world.
No, the police will round up the usual suspects, no doubt. They will make an arrest. They will have a trial and a conviction, but I am a man of God. My soul is, I pray, destined for heaven, but I am an old man, and it is hard for me to distance myself from these old stories. I tell myself that it is just superstition, it is just tales, it is myth, legend, nothing more. But still a little voice inside me, perhaps the voice of myself when I was a boy, and I heard these tales for the first time, tells me that perhaps there is something in them after all.
I assure you, Father, I can attest that there are. We also serve a service of not immediately vilifying these other creatures as anything not is often immediately thought of as, what would you say, unholy, evil. We've also found it's not the case, but this appears very clear. You say these are murdering creatures of the night.
Well, it is perhaps a little more complicated than that. There are many forms of these creatures, you understand. It is not simple black and white. Yes, it is not one thing or another. It is hard to explain. These undead, as they call them, they have many faces, they have many guises, they have many aspects. Perhaps it would be better if I spoke with you all, with your associates as well, your other, what do you call, companions from this castle. I think I will fetch. I have books here in the church with tales come from the old country. Perhaps if you gather together and come back later today, I could speak more of these things with you.
We will do this thing. I will return and speak to my companions, and we will return.
Very good, very good. I have my ministry to attend to, but I hope to see you a little later.
Just as he's saying this, you hear there seems to be some sort of a noise or commotion going on outside the church. The father kind of looks up.
Oh, not again, not again, not again.
Your congregation, Father, or a problem?
I think it is the police again. They come, they sweep around and harass people, ask questions, threaten people. I will need to go and deal with this.
Father, I have my own reasons to avoid your police. Perhaps I will make my quiet exit.
Something you need to confess, my son?
Perhaps at a more opportune time, Father, yes.
Well, I hope to see you safe soon.
And again, you can hear the noise outside of voices raised in what sounds like not quite panic, but certainly the sounds of one side forcing its way around, causing a little bit of distress amongst the people who live in the tents and
a little more than hovels, really, of this kind of area that you're in. And you can make me a vigilance roll, please, if you would.
Might I make this roll using my binoculars to give me a bonus to my vigilance when observing from a distance?
Peering through a church window with your binoculars, yes, why not? Yes, that would seem quite appropriate.
All right, I've got 1 5, 2 3s, bunch of 2s and 1s.
And no successes, then?
Mm-mm.
Would you like to push the roll?
I think, given my already close experience with a certain member of the police and my existing condition, I think I am going to retreat cowardly through the back of the church and try to find an exit in the opposite direction of this noise. As I've already met Gustav once this morning, and I do not need to push that any further.
No, the fewer opportunities you have to be in his company, the better, possibly. So you can slip out the back way through the church, and you going to head anywhere in particular when you leave?
I'm going to make my way back to the castle. We didn't make any plans. There was no rendezvous points set. So I'm going to make my way back to the castle, wait for my compatriots to rejoin, and then I would fill them all in and tell them about our date with the priest. Later today, maybe at night, after sundown, seems appropriate.
Okay, so yeah, well, it's probably coming on for midday by now, maybe even early afternoon. But let's go back a little bit to the little bit further west of where you are, back to the Vaxala Torg, where the others are standing on the corner of Salagatan Street after having, well, a couple of you have been in the bakery buying some fresh bread. The other one has been having a little snoop around the alleys and also popped into the patisserie.
Oh, Father, there's Sven over there.
I'll take a walk over towards Sven and say, tell me, anything to report? Anything interesting you may have found inside?
The patisserie folk were kind. They were nice. They don't understand where all the success for their competitor has come from, but they seem to think it is this boy that he has. They don't seem to know his name that I recall, but they say he's got a new employee and seems to be the key to success. I'm not sure if he's perhaps a changeling of some kind, maybe a little sorcerer or hedge witch, but...
Well, the boy that runs the front of the counter there is a definite sight. It's almost... sickly is not the word for it. He's thin. Hard to be that thin when you're at the front line of a bakery.
Surely not good for selling that you are. The healthy proprietor of food, no.
You're taking money all the same, though. I mean, the line was impressive.
And yet afterwards, the people do not seem as joyful with their purchases as they did when they were standing in line.
Yes, it's almost as if someone blows a candle out, right? Just after they get the bread.
Yes, that's a very good way of putting it. It is almost as though the energy and enthusiasm that they had whilst they were queuing up waiting to be served has dissipated and disappeared by the time they leave the shop. So you can see from where you are standing, Father Sorensen, this patisserie that Sven was visiting earlier on, and Coin de Paradis. It has several rather tasty-looking items in the window on display, and you can also see that there are, there's a kind of couple of little alleyways that clearly lead around the backs of the shops. And Sven, you'll have seen as well while you were out there that there's the odd kind of stray cat, dog loping about there. This is where the refuse bins are kept and that kind of thing. But Marta, as you're all discussing this, you happen to catch out the corner of your eye a little bit of movement in the bakery. There are still a few people around. Most people seem to have completed their purchases and moved on now. But you see the door behind the counter open up, and a young man comes out presumably from back where the actual bread is being baked, because he's got this large tray of loaves and rolls that he kind of is almost struggling to get through the door with. The baker, Tor, kind of nods at him as he comes out with it and starts loading it up onto the shelves. You see this other young man was serving at the till. He's kind of looks at him, and then you can make me, if you would, an observation test. See the interaction between these people.
Ooh, 1-6.
Yeah, there seems to be some definite friction between these two. The young lad that's come out, he's not particularly tall. He's got long, dark hair, almost sort of shoulder-length hair. It's not really in the style of Uppsala, but it's quite possible he's a migrant as well there, because quite a lot of them have wear their hair in different ways, wear their clothes in different styles and that kind of thing. But yeah, he's definitely, he seems to be nervous of the guy behind the till. You get that definite impression that there is there's a relationship there, a slightly antagonistic relationship there. And just then, one of the customers, a young woman, maybe sort of early 20s or so, she makes her purchase, and the boy at the till seems to be kind of quite friendly with her, more so than he has been with some of the other customers. And you get the impression that he's kind of looking her up and down. And then the young lad that's come out the back of the shop, as he's putting the bread up on the shelves, the two young men catch each other's eyes, and you really get a definite feeling that there's a situation that's not particularly comfortable between the two of them. It's almost like the young lad at the till was admiring the girl as she came in, and the other fella caught sight of this, and the boy at the till wasn't too happy about it. It's a kind of a mind your own business kind of look you give him.
Am I in a place that is close enough or convenient enough where I could pop in and offer to help the boy that's stocking the other bread, maybe hold the tray for him?
Well, he's sort of still behind the counter while he's doing that, so that most of the bread is stored actually behind the counter rather than the front. So people don't pick their own bread off the shelf. They'll point to a loaf behind the counter, and then it'll be taken off the shelf for them and wrapped up in newspaper or in paper.
Gotcha. Okay, I think Marta's instinct then is to kind of clock this girl that he's been giving the eye to, and knowing that there is something strange going on with these boys would be to follow her and see where she's going. I don't want to say the word bait, but
Sven would use the word bait.
Of course he would.
It's prey is more than bait, I guess, because bait is intentional, whereas we're just following the same prey.
So yeah, she makes her purchase. The young lad, once he's finished stocking the shelves, doesn't take him very long. He kind of heads back into the back of the shop, and you do notice that the lad at the till, he kind of watches the girl as she goes out of the shop, maybe kind of eyeing her up as she walks down the street, and she heads across the square up to the sort of other corner of the square. Do you want to follow her across there? Or?
Yeah, and I would probably give Father Sorensen and Sven like a head nod in the direction of that girl, so that they would know where I was going if they wanted to follow as well.
Yeah, I think I'd be happy to follow along to see where Marta if she'd picked up on, but I think Father Sorensen is very noticeably going to give her 3 or 4 steps of lead. In his experience, it might be a little best to let those who are better at hunting have their space. So he doesn't want to trip her up. And in that way, too, if someone ends up picking up on what Marta's traveling on, he can make sure that he can watch her back properly.
And what about Sven? As you see Marta and then the father start following this girl across the square.
Sven is going to... He doesn't really know this area terribly well, so he's going to stick with the father, and he's just not going to make much talk, but he's just going to, Any kind of conversation is just, yeah.
This young woman, she carries on across the square. She kind of nods and says hello to a couple of people as she goes. And she goes up one of the streets along to the north of the square, follows that along for a little bit, and then you can see that she's coming into an area where there are a few more people. Looks like people live around this kind of area. There's a few little houses here that have been occupied. They're not in great condition, and there's quite a lot of people living in each one of them. And she goes in through the door of one of the houses, so sort of nods to somebody as she goes in. You get the impression that maybe she was collecting a loaf for breakfast for her family.
Yeah, so knowing where she lives now, we can come back later if we need to follow the prey, but I'll fall back and kind of convey the information to Father Eric and Sven of what I saw in the bakery with the one gentleman eyeing her up and down and it not sitting well with the other one, because we could follow up with the other one after the bakery is closed as well.
Yes, that's a fair idea. I don't like the look of that boy at the counter, and if he's thinking ill or perhaps lustful thoughts, perhaps a good talk with a man of the cloth could do him well.
So once you've established where this woman's gone to, what would you like to do then? Is there anything else you want to investigate? Or
how long do we anticipate the bakery being open?
You would imagine that it'll probably be open most of the day.
So it might be best for us to come back later. We do have some nice meat at home, possibly, if it made its way there to eat.
Also, pastries.
Indeed. It is getting on for lunchtime.
So head back to the castle then is probably my first idea, if nothing else, than to check on if the meat delivery has actually taken place.
And if those urchins have moved in.
Right. Which is also possible.
So you can head back to the castle. Again, it takes you maybe 20 minutes or so to get back there. When you arrive, Algot Frisk informs you that a young whippersnapper has arrived with a bag of meat, expecting a few coins in recompense, and he has taken it down to the kitchens to have it prepared for some lunch for you. The cook will do you a hot pot or something that night.
Wonderful. Glad to see the boys made it here. So I suppose then we may, in fact, run into Nickel when he returns.
He will indeed return not long after you reconvene at the castle. There is the sound of the door opening and closing, and Nickel, yes, you find your other Thursday's children waiting, chatting, maybe having a glass of something in the castle.
Oh, good. We're all here. We're all reconvened.
Seeing Nickel walk in the door, Sven slides some coins across the table to Martha.
Do we see that?
Oh, it's not subtle.
Once again, flaunting your amazing wealth in front of me.
Maybe if you had a job you were good at, eh?
Speaking of a job that I'm good at, Sven, I'll sit down, look around.
Some bowls of stew are provided for you as well.
I don't know how you all got along, but I had a wonderful chat with another man of the cloth, and I looked towards the father. We've got a meeting with him. He seems to be pretty convinced that we face something he referred to as a vampire, and also as a Stroiga. Neither of these ring any bells with me. If any of you have heard of these things?
Yeah, I guess that would be a good question for our storyteller then. What, if anything, may have the father heard of such things?
Why don't you make me a learning test? And I'm looking for a minimum of 2 successes here to have any knowledge of this.
Can we all make a learning test?
You can, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, boy. Oh, I only got 1 success.
Yep, same, just 1.
No successes for Marta.
Okay, so this name doesn't really mean anything to you. It's not something you've heard before.
Well, your other friendly man of the cloth must have done some reading I haven't. I'm interested to hear what he has to say.
It seemed that he might have had even direct encounter Maybe one removed, but a direct encounter with something similar to this creature. But the bloodless nature, the joy on the face, all of those things was familiar to him. And he felt trustworthy to me and asked us to return after services together so that we could all hear more of this creature. He did convey a stake through the mouth as a means to stop the thing, which seems barbaric, but also charmingly effective, I guess. So,
yeah, I think when Nickel says a stake through the mouth, the father's eyes get real wide, and he says, "That seems very brutal. But I confess, my dreams of late have had such brutality in them. I seem to remember a woman being exhumed and dealt with in a very terrible way."
It's very familiar to the story the Russian priest told me.
Like many of you, I had a turbulent past before coming to the castle here. Unfortunately, sometimes I wonder if these memories come while I sleep. They mill about in my head like some butler dusting an old library. But there does seem to be a through line, yes? These, what did he call them? Vampires? These creatures, yes, they took this woman's blood in some way, some sort of mark, almost like a bite of sort. But they've taken from this woman her life essence, left a smile on her placid face. There must be some way to track them. They must leave some other footprint, yes?
But it is strange, too, to hear of them leaving the smile. We saw similar impacts on the mood of people today. We found our concerned citizen, Nickel, the butcher in town, is the one who wrote us the letter. He's concerned about, well, how the police aren't dealing with the murders, and also there's some strange things going on at the bakery. There's bread and pastries laid out on the table.
I stab another piece of bread and then hold it in the air, gesturing with it. The bread is good, but the strangeness is the feeling that is left at the counter after purchase. Something's amiss there.
People seem overwhelmed with anticipation in line, waiting for this bread, and then once they leave, it has been completely drained from them.
The emotion has been drained from them, you say?
Yes.
As if it's taken right out of their bodies.
So as you're saying this, you recall that the young woman that you followed, she did seem to exhibit this same kind of enthusiasm, and then perhaps a slightly more subdued air as her shoulders were kind of a little bit maybe hunched over. She was maybe not walking quite as quickly and with such vigor as she was when leaving the shop. But this seemed to leave her as she walked across the square. And by the time she got home, she seems to be in a fairly convivial kind of a mood.
The baker did hire a new worker recently that may coincide with the murders. He seems to not get along well with the other employee there, the other boy, and I'll be honest, he was looking at a woman that in a way that made me uncomfortable.
Oh, is this the one you followed home?
Yes. So we do know where the woman is. I'm slightly concerned that if the boy is behind this, that she might be next.
His entire cheeks are moving as he's contemplating an idea, and he's like, are these maybe some kind of sorcerer boys who made a deal with the devil, or a fae, or who knows what? And they can choose blood or life, blood or emotion, and they have favorites. He's just like, maybe they both are, and they have competing desires.
It might not be that the boy at the counter is draining them, but simply that the interaction with whatever kind of creature he is exhausting to them.
Father said undead and unlife and living in the gray between alive and dead. Almost, I've heard of revenants and such, not encountered any such thing, do not know if it is a story or if there's truth to it. But he made mention of this undeath, Sven, and also made mention of the different faces it puts on. I'm getting the sense that there's a lot of hunger involved in all of this, and the appetites, they seem to vary, just as I might like this delicious bun, but not the sweet roll. Maybe these undead vary their appetite.
It would be key to existing in the society undetected.
Many monsters do so.
Certainly, but I would caution us against correlation implying that this is the cause. We must have evidence.
Of course. A second idea. They can feed on emotions, they can feed on the blood. They must feed on the people. What if his hand kind of hovers over his mug of beer and he's like, what if by draining the spirits and giving the food, they keep the people happy and healthy-ish. Happiness will regenerate with time, but that just makes them healthier for the next harvest. Kind of like keeping your stock in a woodland from being overhunted. Or over-preyed upon. You get rid of the wolf so that the deer can prosper so that you can kill the deer. Or in this case, you free up more grassland for the deer so that you can kill the deer, be more accurate.
If it is true that this boy may have done some sort of mark, isn't a mark at all. What if he is simply grazing before feasting? He is taking what he needs in the moment, undetected, so that way later on he can draw her attention. You said that he was... Father Sorensen looks probably a little sheepish to mention such things, but he was a little flirtatious, perhaps?
Don't know if I would consider it flirtatious.
All right. If the boy had done it to you, Marta, what would you have considered it?
It looked as if he was considering her in a way that she wasn't thinking about him. A look of desire. Not reciprocated.
Do you think she picked up on that?
If she did pick up on it, she didn't show it or openly invite it or reciprocate it in any way.
We need more information, and I think this father could give us that. When would he be by?
He asked us to return after his evening service.
So he didn't actually specify exactly when return, but if that's the information Nicole is wishing to pass on to the others.
He said after he tended his flock, which I immediately assumed was...
So what he meant by that, and maybe Nicole picked up a different meaning to the one he intended, was that he was going out to speak to the people outside the church. But yes, absolutely, there will have been an evening service as well.
Well, I would like to save our evening for hunting whatever might come after this girl. And so if we can make our way to the father first, then that might be within everyone's interest. So finish up your stew and prepare yourself for a long night.
So once you've had a little stew to eat, Sven, are you going to partake of the pastries that you purchased? Or are you going to share them around?
Yes, absolutely. Everybody gets one. He's like, I bought a variety. I'm not sure what's good. Some are fancier than anything I've ever had, but...
Sven, is it correct? These are the pastries from this bakery which you just told me the story that they possibly are feeding on their clientele. Is this the same pastry?
No, that is the bread you ate with your supper.
Okay.
These are from the bakery, the patisserie next door, which is being put out of bakery by
There's a different bakery, and that's what these are from.
It's a patisserie. I thought they were the same, but they're different.
Okay. But to be clear, we ate all the bakery goods from the the mysterious bakery already at lunch. That is what we chose to do.
Yes.
Because it was delicious. And does anyone thinking back on that perhaps consider that, it'll be fine. I'm sure it's fine.
I bless the bread, Nickel. What's the problem?
Sven gestures to the priest. He's like, see?
So you share out these pastries, these gorgeous sweet treats for after your hearty stew, and as you do so, you can't help but notice there's a strange smell, and it's like the cream's gone off. And when each of you take your first bite into these pastries, there's a definite taste of staleness to these. The cream is slightly sour and leaves a slightly unpleasant aftertaste, and the pastry itself, it doesn't taste quite right.
I sort of look around at the collective faces that I see.
I don't know how they eat them in France, but
Sven, these make my stomach bubble. I do not understand these pastries.
and Sven's thinking back to his interactions with the baker and how in the store everything looked really good. This does not make sense. The cream is even yellow compared to when I bought it.
It's almost like the pastry, the cream had been sitting out on a warm day all day, maybe from even longer than that. When you bought them, there was no hint of this at all. They were, they smelled fresh and delicious. But now, no, not so much.
Do I think I could use the I don't want to say the chemical kit we have, but the kit we have to do some sort of investigation on this bread?
You absolutely could, yeah.
I sort of stand up and say, look at the pastry and say, I'm not eating another bite of this, and I don't suggest you do either. And I will go to my offices, welcoming the rest of them with me as the spectacles go on and the beakers and other finery begin to be used.
Well, the chemical equipment specifically is to determine cause of death with investigation. But I think you could use it for that. So yeah, make me an investigation roll at the +1.
That is 2 successes.
Excellent. So the first thing that your chemical analysis of these pastries tells you is that they're not pastries. Well, not entirely pastries. There's vegetable matter, animal matter in them. It's a little bit confusing. It's almost like these pastries are breaking down. It's almost like they're decomposing at an accelerated pace. And what they're decomposing into is not what you'd expect a pastry to be made of. And you can make me a learning test, Father.
Oh, I have a funny feeling I don't want to roll, but I'm going to anyway. Learning, you say? That's 5 dice. Maybe I'll get one.
Are you suffering from a mental condition as well?
I am, yes. Yep, but I still have 1.
1 success, excellent. And as you're gathering these results together, a little memory starts surfacing in the back of your mind. And it's a memory that you maybe don't really want to think about too much, because the transmutation of matter from one form into another form, that's like witchcraft.
Yeah, and of course the father's memory is going to go immediately back to some memories he's probably covered up and locked away, hoping not to have to think about, but he's sort of imagining himself back inside that closet, smelling things, hearing things, and then you all probably see his face sort of turn, not just at the investigating of this decomposing pastry, but he seems genuinely, I guess, he seems hurt. And he stands up straight and turns to the group and says, with a sheer strength of will, and says, "This is witchcraft." And he sort of tosses it onto a nearby table, almost as if he wants to never touch it again.
Sven, who's been leaning against a wall because he doesn't know anything that's been done over there. He leaves the detective and the priest to do these things. He's just like, he spits at the mention of witchcraft. And he's like, sorcery, eh? A hex on them or made by them?
It's hard to determine immediate, but I would say, given what I know of your encounter with the owner of the shop, my guess is a hex has been put on their food.
Blood drinker, a motion drinker, and witches? What is going on in this town?
We must get to the bottom of it. You see Father Sorensen rub his arm, almost as if he's got a stiff muscle.
Are you okay, Father? You seem impacted by this.
Had a very close call with witchcraft when I was younger. It led me to God, where I should have been the whole time. He turns to Marta and says, do you think that if we needed to, we could warn the girl ahead of time?
Certainly.
I think that should be plan 1 when we arrive. I fear she's going to be in the streets later tonight. She might not even know why.
She might have an irresistible urge.
Well, Sven, you've seen hexes before, yes?
Mm-hmm. Hedge witches.
Let's go meet with Nichols' priest friend, his other priest friend. Let's learn what we can about this legend.
And then perhaps we stake out your girl's house and wait to see what appears tonight.
No, I thought you put the stake in when they were in the ground.
A stake out and a stake in. Yes, Sven, this is exactly the point.
As we're walking out of the priest's room, Sven's like, some of this stuff reminds me of what stuff you do to get rid of werewolves. The whole sticking them, nailing them to the ground.
Always with werewolves with you, Sven.
Well, they do some fucked up stuff. Did I tell you about the time that I went to hunt a werewolf? And it didn't go very well.
I think you've told us about it many times. Over and over and over again.
Several times. And maybe...
Every time we're enjoying a nice meal.
Look, all I'm saying is he slaughtered an entire village.
So, I'll assist my fellow society friends in getting us on to the church to speak with this man of the cloth.
All righty. So you can certainly get together. Are you just going to walk across, or are you going to get a coach or something?
I think walking is a good idea for multiple reasons. One, even though I've got the resources to afford, something grander, I think being on the ground, especially now, is really important.
I would say also we don't want to attract too much attention to ourselves.
Correct.
So you can head on over back the way you came. Easiest way to get to the church is back through the square. And as you are passing through, you notice that Sven, you will recognize coming from what looks like coming out of the butcher shop is the young girl, teenage girl that you saw in the patisserie, and she's got a bag of something that she's presumably purchased, and she's kind of strolling back. There's a little bit of a skip in her step. She seems to be in a good mood, and she's humming a little song to herself.
Wait here, I must tell her and her father that, I've got to tell them that what they're dealing with, because I don't think they're going to get any repeat customers with the way we receive the food. So give me a moment and I will inform the poor girl.
Are you just going over on your own, or is anyone going with you?
I would absolutely like to go over with him. Yeah.
Okay. The two of you head over, and as you approach, you catch a little bit of the tune she's humming. Father Sorensen, could you make me a learning test, please?
I certainly could. I have just a single success.
Just a single success, is that all? Well, that's plenty. This tune is familiar to you from your youth.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I will... Is it a tune I preferred?
Well, you thought you did it at the time.
Let me see.
But maybe now that tune doesn't bring back such pleasant memories.
I see. Yes, a beat or I wouldn't say a chant maybe, but close.
And then you start thinking about your the perspective you had on that pastry, whether it was a hex or not, and you think, well, maybe not. Maybe it was not being turned into something in front of your eyes as you analysed it. Maybe it was reverting back to its original form.
Well, that's probably a very shocked look, or a slowly growing shocked look on the priest's face as Father Sorensen considers, are they giving people to eat?
Well, you reckon that there was vegetable matter in it as well, so you don't think, well, it's hard to say, but you don't think it's necessarily people in it, but it's certainly not sugar and cream and light flaky pastry.
Oh, wonderful. So they've nicked half of Sven's garden out back and they're feeding that in as well.
And I think as this thought passes through your mind, you can make me a fear test.
Ooh, I've never made one. What is that?
So for a fear test, you can roll me either logic or empathy, depending on how your character deals with things that are maybe a little bit frightening or disturbing.
Yeah, I think he might opt for logic.
Okay, yeah, rationalize it. Rationalize the fear. Just looking for one success here.
Nope.
Okay, so you will take one mental condition from this, and this thought chills you to the bone of the implications of this.
Yeah, I think the father looks genuinely frightened. I think he probably slows his pace and he gets close to Sven, closer than the father probably normally would, and he says, I don't like this at all. I've heard that tune before. I've heard it hummed before, and I don't think it was ever pastry at all.
That's a very good point, actually. Detective Nickel Doppler has reminded me that when you are in the company of your fellow Thursday's children, you get bonus die to your fear tests. So currently you are with Sven. Have the others gone across the square with you, or is it just Sven and Father Sorensen together?
I would have stayed with the group, having learned my lesson.
Every time you disappear, I put a bet on you not coming back safely.
So initially, I think it was just going to be Sven that was going to go over and have a quiet word with this girl, but have all four of you gone across together?
In a small chain.
No, Marta wasn't planning on it.
Okay, so you can have you can roll another 2 dice, Father Sorensen.
Okay, I have 1 success now.
All right. Okay, so we'll backtrack on that one a little bit.
I'd like to leave the comment. Leave the comment in there. I'll take the condition away, but the comment I think would still be the same. He'd still be.
You can still be chilled to your core, but you haven't been struck by fear.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'd like to, if I can, quicken my pace a little bit, and try to catch up to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she becomes aware of the fact that you're heading towards her. Unless you actually kind of stop and speak to her, she just carries on her way.
Excuse me.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And you, Father?
I'm well. That's a strange tune you're humming.
Oh, was I? I didn't know. Oh, yes. My mother sang it to me when I was little.
Wonderful. And you, your mother works at the patisserie, yes?
My mother and father, yes, they own it. And well, we rent it. Is this a word? Yes, rent. Yeah.
Yes. Splendid.
Can I do something for you, Father?
Well, I turn back a little bit to Sven.
Yes, Sven's been coming up behind you.
Oh, Monsieur, are you in our shop earlier?
Yes, child, I was. We wish to speak with you about. Well, Father, you started. I will let you continue.
Well, it's the bread.
Oui, the bread.
Yes, it. I was wondering, with the way it was prepared, it seems a little different than some of the other breads here.
You mean the pastry?
Yes.
Oh, it is pastry.
Are you aware of the other bakery not far from yours that's been getting an awful lot of business?
Oui, Peterson's. Oui, yes. Yes, he's very, very popular.
He seems to be, yes. Do you remember when that started happening?
I think maybe 2 months ago, perhaps.
Well, I look at Sven. I wonder if it would be possible maybe to speak with your father.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm going home just now. He's there if you want to speak with him.
I think so. And perhaps your mother as well.
Just a quick word.
It's about the bread, the pastry? Or?
It is.
Well, yes. Now? Later? I don't know.
Please. I extend a hand towards the way she was going.
So she carries on. She's not quite as buoyant as she was before speaking to you, but yeah, she carries on to the shop. Shop's still open, but there doesn't seem to be any customers just now.
Well, I mean, last time I knew that there weren't a ton of customers going in and out of that place anyway, so that would fit the bill. Yeah, so I think I'll just sort of whisper to Sven and say the tune she was humming, it's something I've heard a long time ago. It's not right.
Before you found God?
No, Sven, before God found me.
And Sven just nods. He's like, I understand. I'm with you with this.
So yeah, I'm very interested as we approach to get a read on not just the location, but if I see her mother working, an older woman, I'm definitely going to give her a good look over, not in sort of a strange leering way, but I want to make sure that she's not wearing any sort of charms or earrings or necklaces or things that might be concealed. Because from the father's experience, a lot of witches wear certain things. They adorn themselves with charms and protections. And
okay, so who is going into this shop? Nickel and Marta, you weren't with the others, but you can see that they've stopped to speak with this girl, and now they all seem to be headed over towards the... well, I think, Nickel, were you with Marta, yeah?
So Nickel followed, and Marta throws up her hands, thinking, I thought we were going to go talk to a priest about some vampires, and now we're following another girl. But then she'll kind of follow at a little short distance.
Is this a freestanding structure, Spike?
No, it's a shop, as part of a row of shops, basically.
Is it attached on the left and the right to other buildings, or is there an alleyway or something?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. No, it's there is an alleyway beside it, but not on either side. It's like a row of buildings, and it's one of them. Yeah.
I'm gonna make an eye at Marta. I'm gonna point at that alley, and then I'm gonna go around the back. I'm gonna check it at the back of the shop.
I'll join Nickel in the alley.
Okay, so we have Nickel and Marta sneaking down the alley, and Father Sorensen and Sven, you go into the shop, and there is the gentleman and the lady there. They're behind the counter, basically trying to rearrange pastries, looking busy, but you get the impression that they are not nearly as busy as they'd like to be. And there's a certain air of disquiet to them in that respect, in that, maybe they are a little bit worried that if they don't get the business they need, then they're not going to be able to make the rental payments, and then they'll have to close the business. And you can kind of tell that this is probably the thoughts that are going through their heads as they wipe down the counter and rearrange pastries on the shelves. But there is also a scent here as well. You notice that there's dried herbs, fruit peel, oils, scented oils in the air, as well as the smell of the baked goods.
Oh, certainly. So I suppose I would look around the scents that they're using, and do I get a sense that they're very aromatic?
Absolutely, you do, yeah.
And so that might be used to, say, conceal certain smells?
Entirely possible, yes. And there's a kind of a nature theme to the place as well. You know, very, very much little bunches of dried herbs, little kind of arrangements of wildflowers and that kind of thing around the place.
I'll step forward to the front counter and wait to be addressed just momentarily.
Yes, so the man greets you with a smile and says, bonjour, welcome. What can I get for you, Father?
Welcome. I turned and sort of gesture to Sven, who's nearby, and say, I had a chance to sample some of your pastries after Sven here purchased some earlier today.
Oh, you enjoy?
I wish I could say.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. They were not to your taste.
I don't know whose taste they would be to be perfectly honest. And I mean no direct offense to your skill as a baker. I am certain that you are very good at what you do, but I must say that perhaps it is how they are prepared. The cream seems to have been soured when they were made.
Oh, well, we only use fresh cream. I don't know how that can be, but please, take something in recompense. We are very proud of the goods that we sell here. I would not like to think that you get a bad idea of our produce.
No, I believe that you are wholeheartedly a good baker. So let me peruse what you have here, and then perhaps I'll make a selection. So I'll sort of move left and right, but I want to move in the direction where his wife is.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, she's just kind of to the other side of the counter, really. She smiles at you as you move over towards her.
I'll just sort of scan what they have here, and then I will absent-mindedly begin humming a tune.
Alrighty. You and Sven can both make me an observation test.
Also, I'm going to be moving up to kind of talk to the father in the family. Just, keep him occupied.
Okay.
I have just one.
And I have none.
All right, well, Sven, you're chatting away to the father, and you don't really notice anything. The father seems to be humming a little tune. But you, Father Sorensen, you notice the woman, she definitely stiffens slightly when you start humming this tune.
So I'll, oh, this will be creepy. I'm going to level my gaze from the bread and catch her eye, and then continue to hum.
She studiously avoids your eye.
Have you heard that tune?
No, I don't think so. It's very nice.
We met your daughter in the street here, just on the way, and she was humming the same tune. It's...
Oh, yes. Yes. I did not recognize it. Yes, it is a folk song from our home.
Where are you from?
We are from a little village just near Paris. You probably will not have heard of it. But we've made our home now in Sweden, in Uppsala.
Yes, as many have. It seems there are many people coming to Uppsala, which I think is wonderful. I sort of look around. Is there anything else here that on her, as I'm a little close to her, is there anything I think that she might be using, or perhaps have invested in to keep prying eyes from what's going on? I don't believe that one could, without some subtle signs of sorcery, keep this, chicanery going. There has to be something here that is allowing the sort of covert passing of this food.
So everything here in the kind of the shop area looks completely above board, exactly how you would expect a shop of this kind to look. There doesn't seem to be anything untoward and anything unusual about it. But you will know that there's a door behind the counter which would lead into the rear of the shop. There'd be living quarters, possibly upstairs, and also they'd have a basement. They'd have other rooms to the back of the shop.
Yes, I guess Father Sorensen is secretly hoping that someone is doing something about that while he's keeping the people in front busy.
Speaking of which, Nickel and Marta, as you come round into the alleyway behind this patisserie, what exactly is it you're wanting to do back here?
Marta, if this is a proper patisserie, which is like a bakery. It shows signs of a normal business. And if it is a witchcraft patisserie, as the father claims, then I do not know what it will show, but I would not expect normal business trapping. So while they are inside bothering the family, perhaps we go and bother the back door.
Yes, so I suppose we're looking for signs of witchcraft, aren't we?
So I just want to look around. Is there a dumpster? Is there a place for delivery? Are there old sacks of flour? Stuff like that.
Yeah, so this is a back alley, pretty much the same as any other back alley in the city. There are refuse bins, there are little sort of tufts of grass, and you can both make me investigate skill tests. And I'm looking for 2 successes here. You might see something that catches your interest.
No successes for Marta.
I will, of course, pull out my magnifying glass, which gives me a +1 to investigation, which cancels out my hopelessness at the entire task that I have. Just 1.
Would you like to push the roll?
Marta, I believe there is something, and I'm going to open up the bin, and I'm going to step inside of the dumpster, and
I'll help him in.
Okay.
Yeah. And my magnifying glass as I try to push this roll.
Okay, so everything you rolled that wasn't a 6, you can re-roll, and you will take 1 condition after this, a mental condition.
Aha! 2 more successes.
Splendid.
So that's 3 total successes, and I will be angry, I think.
Okay, so you're now both hopeless and angry. But with those additional successes, you do notice something that that maybe you wouldn't have picked up if you hadn't climbed into this refuse bin and sort of started pulling it around. The bin outside the back of the patisserie appears to be considerably less full than the bins around it. And when you look around that kind of area, you get the distinct impression that from the refuse that's kind of lying around, there's maybe some potato peelings, maybe a few bones with a tiny little bit of meat still clinging to them. You get the distinct impression that somebody has taken refuse from a couple of the other bins from the other shops further down the street and carried them to the back door of the patisserie. Maybe bits and pieces of the refuse have kind of fallen out of whatever they've been carrying them in, and there's a few of these kind of lying around the back door of the patisserie. And the patisserie itself, there's no refuse there that you would associate with baked goods. There's no empty flour sacks. There's no empty bags that maybe sugar would have come in, that kind of thing. There's not really any of that there, and you'd expect to find a fair bit there.
Oh, Marta.
What is it, Nickel? What did you find?
That is what we... Did you eat much of the pastry from this shop? I believe the father is correct. We have something here. The pastry, it is garbage pastry, Marta, is what all of these clues point to. They are somehow making their pastries, their beautiful pastries, out of refuse. There's no trappings of actual baking here. And look at this. You can see where they have dragged garbage and bins from the other up to the... Is there a back door that I can check a handle on?
Mm-hmm. Yep, there is, yeah.
I'll do that as... Marta, I'm certain that this is the secret of these pastries that turned to garbage in our mouth. They began as garbage, and in our home they became garbage.
This does partially explain why people were so excited about a new baker in town. Perhaps this has always been this way, or perhaps they've had to become more resourceful since they've lost all of their business.
But they deserve it. Deserve to lose their... They feed their people this which is not fit to be eaten.
It could provide some sustenance.
You tasted it. It was spoiled, and you cannot eat that. That makes you sick.
I'm just not sure if this is something that that they've resorted to now, or if it is something that has been going on for a long time. Desperate people in desperate times.
Marta, you think this might be acceptable behavior for them to use some sort of whatever, I will say witchcraft, there's some sort of magics to create patisserie from garbage and then send it to sell it to us? This is what you say is okay then?
I'm not saying it's acceptable behavior, but people will do things that aren't acceptable in times that are tough, and rather than losing their patisserie, they have gone through other means to use products that would normally not be used to bake. What I'm saying is that this is merely a side effect of everything else that is going on in town, possibly.
I hear what you're saying. You know, I was not as upset about the emotional whatever thievery happening across the street, because in my head I said, this is day-to-day business. Everyone is constantly stealing emotion and energy from others and giving it to others. It did not seem different. I can see how what you're saying here is a similar. This is no different than any other business. I am upset about eating their garbage. I will tell you that is honest. I am very upset about this, but in a grander scheme, you provide context that I can understand your point.
Even monsters are merely trying to live their lives.
So now I believe maybe our only master is the one that killed the girl in the alley. Because even if she did die in joy, pleasure, however, she is still murdered.
Yes, whereas we did not die from these pastries.
Well, we could have, but you're right, we didn't. We will see tomorrow morning if we wish we were dead. But yes, you are right. You are right. Let us see if our compatriots have made any headway bullying the witch family.
All right, well, you can make your way back out of the alley, around into the street. And once you get into the actual kind of more wider street there, you can see that there seems to be some sort of a commotion going on. There's another one of these confrontations appears to be going on in the square. Doesn't appear to be as large a scale as when you were there before, but it looks like there's a few of there's a couple of police officers there, and it looks like they're asking questions of some of the workers in the area, and they don't seem to be being particularly subtle or pleasant about it. Now, you've seen this sort of thing before. You're aware of this sort of thing goes on. It doesn't make it any less enjoyable to. Doesn't make it any more enjoyable to see actually face to face the way that the police treat these people. It's, with contempt, nothing more. Back in the patisserie, Sven and Father Sorensen, you can hear there does appear to be a little bit of something of a little bit of commotion going on out in the square.
Yes, it's almost like the pastries became literal garbage. It's very weird. I think you've been cursed.
Well, who do you think would curse us?
I don't know. Do you have any enemies?
Not that we know of. We make friends here. We like it here.
Tell me, did you bring any customs from your home? Any religious practices, things of folklore? I don't gesture directly at his wife, but
I suppose maybe we bring a little bit of France with us when we come to Sweden, but we try to be like the people here. We try to fit in. We try to make friends. The people here have been very hospitable, have been very gracious, and. Our business, it took a while to get all the licenses we needed and to get the trade. I put out lots of leaflets and that to tell people.
Well, I'll tell you this: I don't think that if someone has maligned you, I don't think it's your fault. I don't see that you've done anything wrong, but
something wrong.
Yes. The damned noise outside. If you'll excuse me.
Well, Thank you, Father. Please come again and enjoy. You kind of put it. You may. These are from us a gift. She puts a couple of eclairs and into a little bit of a choux pastry.
Certainly, I'll take the eclairs and not think of what they God could be made of.
And they watch you as you leave the shop. Maybe the wife watches you for a little bit longer, possibly slight apprehension in her expression.
Yeah. Not too sure about her yet, but her husband seems like a decent fellow at least. And
you can join up with Marta and Nikon as they're coming around down the street of the alley, and this slight commotion in the square seems to be not reaching the stage where it's likely to get violent or anything like that. It's just there's a little bit of ill will on both sides towards the other, really.
I'll approach Nickel. So?
And Nickel is still in the alley a little bit when he saw the police activity. He sort of would step back, obviously suspiciously, hiding from the police. Marta and I did investigation, and the pastries are made out of garbage, but Marta says that's okay because they are very resourceful and skilled at their garbage-making pastries.
Garbage?
Well, the refuse of other shops, it would seem. But can you blame them? They have no business. Their entire business has been stolen by the bakery to make ends meet. Possibly they've had to resort to witchcraft and other means.
I look at the eclairs that she's given me.
They seem fine.
I crack one open. A little apprehensive.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it.
I take just a bit of my index finger and taste it.
Yeah, it tastes like cream, fresh cream.
This is fresh. These are fine.
I'll give it a second and see what happens over time.
Oh.
The pastries we carried back to the castle, they obviously degraded.
Well, what if it's not time? What if it's distance?
Well, we'll keep them on us and we'll experiment. Look, once we drive this vampire bakery out of business and out of town, then we'll get rid of the French witch bakery. If they continue to use witchcraft.
It's likely not an intent of harm, but only a means of survival.
No. But listen, one bakery is thriving and the other is failing. If there is nothing wrong, I gesture with the eclairs suggestively. There's nothing wrong with these baked goods when they come out of the shop, but suddenly, when you pass beyond them, they get bad. Then there has to be something that has been placed on that shop, some sort of hex or spell. And it would be easy to look at the one bakery which is thriving, which has a counterman who's already a bit of a subject, and determine that he's looking for more customers. He wants more people to come to the shop so he can pull whatever energy he needs from them. What he needs is a cue. And he doesn't have it when there are fine French pastries not but too far away.
Father, we did a thorough investigation, and I point down at all my trash-covered clothing. What is being done here is being done intentionally. They are dragging and carrying garbage from other places into their shop to produce these pastries. And they are not creating waste out of the creation of pastries within the shop. It is very A plus B equals C, where C is garbage.
Father Sorensen, in your understanding of the way of these things, it's not usual for something that has been transformed in such a way to degrade and revert. Certainly not in a matter of hours. And it would be crazy for a patisserie to expect nobody to notice this.
Yeah, that's not only that, but if this food was degrading and becoming less than, not just less than edible, it's foul. The food is foul in some way. There would have been people banging on the city council or other people to shut the place down. That's what doesn't make sense to Father Sorensen is, if this was the case, then they wouldn't be in business anymore.
Exactly.
Someone is keeping them alive. So something is keeping their business going, right?
I mean, it does look like their business is starting to fail.
Yeah. All right, well.
We can scientifically test this, Father, because both distance and time is exactly what is necessary for us to go talk to our Russian priest.
All right, then. Let's speak with him before we surveil the girl.
No, we also have to surveil that boy.
We're going to have to split up then. There are only so many eyes.
8 in total, if I count correctly. Well, 7.5. So you can head from where you are now, across the square, and Nicole, you can show them the way. It's middle of the afternoon now, and the streets are slightly quieter.
On the way over, I'll mention the hubbub that occurred outside the church, just to let them know this police activity is happening all over the city.
So the couple of police officers and the workers that were having this disagreement, they seem to have gone their separate ways now, with a rather kind of a few fairly terse words thrown in each other's directions. But you can pass unmolested to the small church just north of the square. And Nicole, you've been here before, but the others will see firsthand the poverty in which these people live. They are really, hand to mouth is a fairly fair summation of how these people exist. They have nothing but the clothes they stand up in, mostly, maybe a few odds and pieces. A lot of them have travelled long distances to get here, searching for a better life, searching for hope, searching for a positive future. But what they've found is maybe not what they had hoped for. And as you arrive at the church, you can see that the Father Tröster, is outside. He's talking to a couple of people. He's kind of got his hand on a shoulder of a man who seems to be standing his head down, sort of shaking his head. And you get the feeling that the Father is comforting a man who feels like the hope he may have had in his life has evaporating here. This is not the promised land that he had strived for, that he journeyed so far to come to. And the Father sees you arriving, and he greets you, Nicole. And the rest of you see this man. He's wearing a standard Russian Orthodox priest's outfit, and he doesn't look like it's a particularly well-decorated one. It's very, very simple. This is a man who lives the same life as the people that he tends to, and he greets you when you arrive and says, Mr. Doppler, these are your friends you spoke of, yes?
Indeed, I'll introduce you to the society that has taken up residence at the castle. We are here to continue our discussion, Father.
Yes, well, you better come inside. I will be preparing this evening's service, but I have some information that may be of value to you and maybe shed a light on just exactly what is going on here in this city.
Good, thank you. Good. Thank you. It is a confusing and complicated city indeed. And we also have things to share, and maybe putting our heads together will give us new avenues to explore.
Well, come inside and sit down and let us talk on it. And I think there is where we shall end for today. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for the Vaesen mystery, the Friend, the Fiend, and the Shadow of the Night.